Okay, it's recording anyway, so. Alrighty. So, podcast 3, Slate. And I think we're ready to go, right, guys?
Ready to go.
Ready,
Freddy.
All right, here we go. Welcome to Surviving Hollywood, the podcast about three friends hanging out, navigating life through Hollywood as actors, filmmakers, and all that fun stuff, right?
I want to hear your story. I think you might want to hear mine.
Oh, I want to hear yours.
I'm curious to hear both of your stories. Anyway, that kicks off part of the show. So I want to get right into it. Let's talk about auditioning today, right? That's
right.
What we're kind of talking about. But first off, how are you guys doing this week?
I haven't seen you guys in like 4 or 5 days. I've seen you every day, but
Every day. I'm doing great.
Yikes.
Johnny,
Austin and I actually just went out for an audition this morning, so
that's right.
We're really
Perfect
prepared
timing
for this episode.
Santa Monica.
No, Brentwood.
Brentwood.
Oh yeah. Well,
Is that where the audition was?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. So, all right. So you guys had a good week. A couple auditions then.
Great week.
A lot of auditions.
Still,
I went.
Okay. Thanks for elaborating. And that's our show, guys.
So
I mean, were we ready to get into it? Or?
yeah, well, let's talk about the auditions we had this week.
Yeah.
Did you want to elaborate on the one we had this morning?
Yeah, okay, so the one we had this morning, it was for probably a very well-known weed-killing company. Should we say the name?
Weed killing company. It's probably Roundup or something.
Not
Not that known.
It's the Pepsi to that's Coca-Cola.
But
Name doesn't matter.
So we go in, and they say, so there's no lines for this role. And we go in, they say, your guys are going to be like doing like a little choreographed thing where you're going to like almost be choreographing different moves as if you're killing weeds.
As if you're the people.
It's to Seven, what's that song? Going to Wichita.
Seven Nation.
Yeah, that's right.
We just got, this video got taken down because I just sang it.
Copyright issues.
Yeah, so
Don't
it's
sue
just
us.
like bum, 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 bum.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, kept doing different moves as if we were,
Totally.
we're the first ones in, so that's good.
So in a sense that we were setting that, like they were choreographing it with us and saying, okay, this looks better, this looks better.
So for everybody out there that doesn't know, when somebody says, we were the first ones in, it usually means you didn't get it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like an excuse to say like, I didn't know what was going on. I don't know.
First ones in is the best, if not the last ones in.
I agree. I 100% agree with that. Anything else going on this week besides auditions?
I want to hear about the one you're going on tomorrow.
Tomorrow, am I allowed to talk about it?
With me, absolutely.
I won't tell.
Okay. Nobody's going to hear. Anyway, actually, I just came from a coaching session for this audition specifically.
You do the personal coaching?
I did it just for this one.
Because it's the big one.
Because it's a big one. So auditioning for Fast and the Furious, the new one, which I think is
in
Fast
space?
9. I'd probably, I don't know. But you know how they did the spinoff of like Hobbs and Shaw or something?
Yeah.
Well, this is like the one bringing it back again with like Vin Diesel and stuff.
Who's Hobbs?
Hobbs is The Rock.
This guy stopped after Too Fast, Too Furious.
Yeah,
Oh, dude.
after the one after Tokyo Drift, I was done.
That was the best one. I'm kidding. That's the worst one.
I said the one after Tokyo Drift.
Oh, anyway. But yeah, so that's what I'm getting ready for tomorrow.
So what type of character?
Well, I think we can all agree that Too Fast, Too Furious was the best one, right?
A lot of people like the original.
I'm more on the original, man.
Wow.
The thing is, I think we saw number 2 first. So it was like...
It's original to us, but we still saw number 1.
That's not the same, dude. How are you gonna watch the second one without even seeing the first one?
What's your character?
Because the budget was bigger.
Yeah, I guess you're right. That's the crazy thing, and this is one of those weird auditions where it doesn't usually go like this, but I don't know.
Well, good guy or bad guy? Antagonist or protagonist?
I'm assuming bad guy. That's kind of based off of what they said, but
They told him to keep the beard.
they didn't. The character doesn't have a name. It just says character A.
All right, dude, it could be big then.
But the thing is that
Sounds like you're gonna die.
the weird thing about it is, and I don't know if you guys ever had this in an audition before, they sent me the sides, and the sides are for, one of the scenes is from a previous Fast and the Furious movie, and the other sides are from The Godfather. Completely different projects.
Never gotten like a famous movie like The Godfather before. I mean, that's almost like...
Did you have the famous speech?
I was going to make you
Yeah.
a deal.
Is that how you did it?
No, that's not the scene. But anyway, that was horrible.
I mean, that sounds like a bad move sending you sides to The Godfather because everybody will just recognize those characters.
That's why it's hard, dude.
You'll be compared to the best and won't live up to it.
That's why it's a hard audition, because it's like they literally told you like the most basic information about the character. Like, he's a man.
Would you could you do it for us?
Yeah, do a little.
Can't do it. Sorry. I don't want to get in trouble.
I don't know if you remember this, dude, but I auditioned for the last Fast and Furious movie, and it was that audition that you helped me with, and I felt so bad I bought you that handle of whiskey.
Wait, why? Why'd you feel bad?
Because it was a same day audition.
Was it like a British accent or something?
That's right. So they were looking for bouncer types. So
a British accent, a bouncer type, and they asked you to go in?
No. So already you don't fit the part, because when they say bouncer types in Hollywood, as much as you think, I could play anything.
I don't remember that character in that film.
Well, it wasn't in it. They didn't even use that scene.
Did they cut it out or what?
Yeah, they cut it out because they were walking into the bar, and then it would cut right to inside the bar. So that guy, whoever they got, never got on screen. But to get that audition, I said that expert with the British accent. I spent the ages between the ages of 4 to 11 in London, so I'm pretty knowledgeable with London. It's a lie. But I got the audition, and there's like needs to get in by 5 p.m. today. I think it was like a...
Well, before you continue, could you just give us a sentence or two in this expert British accent?
I want to hear that accent.
But seriously,
actually.
let's make it serious.
Yeah. Okay. Well, obviously I warmed up, but it was like...
How about introduce this podcast in a British accent?
Yeah. No. Hello, governor. I want to get the beer.
Dick Van Dyke, dude, so they wanted super
Welcome
Cockney.
to Surviving Hollywood. My name's James Lake.
Why is your lip quivering?
My Fair Lady.
Anyway, I didn't get the part. But but I'm assuming it was like a pickup scene or like I assume the movie, like this was like an extra type thing because they would have shot the next week or whatever. But we didn't have our own setup at the time, and Johnny, you were doing your training little kids with improv comedy, and you could not have been busier. But I was like, dude, I need you on this one. I'm going to get in the next Fast and Furious movie.
It was a big movie, yeah.
Big movie.
And then Johnny saw your first take, and
the kids really need me, man.
I asked Johnny, what would he have been doing if not helping me? He was like, I probably would have taken a nap. And I was like, appreciate you, man.
What kind of whiskey?
Knob Creek, one of my go-tos.
That's pretty good. Pretty good.
It's like it costs like $33 at the store.
Just as good as a Bullet or Makers.
Well, exactly. I could go with a $25 one.
Glenlivet.
I could go with a little higher and go 33.
There you go. Got to live big. So it's safe to say you booked the role.
Nope.
I think what we discerned was that they saw us in an audition. They're like, we're going to cut this.
I do remember that I had Johnny angle the camera a little like down, so I looked a little bigger and tougher.
I don't remember that.
Didn't work. Just like a little.
Actually, it's funny that you mentioned that audition because I remember James Lake got that same audition.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Well, he deserves it more than me.
He's an actual British guy who's buff.
Yeah. He's from Britain. So, yeah. But it was funny because he was so upset about it. I remember him
that he didn't get it?
No, I remember talking to him about it, and he was just like, I was on my way to Vegas, and, how was I going to shoot an audition? It's crazy. The same day? He's like, I had to pull over in my car and just shoot it with my phone in, like, selfie mode or something.
The same day. That happens all the time.
I know, but it was like I'm driving, and like 4 hours, you know how upset he gets.
Let's not turn this into can I tell you my favorite story? When this guy booked, huge part, everybody in town was going out for this part. It was an asylum film. We booked Rumpelstiltskin. I helped you audition for that. But the thing was, it was me, you, our friend Brian, and our friend James. We all were hanging out like a week or two later after everybody.
And who is James? Can we just give like a...
Well, we said he was a buff British dude.
Okay,
and here's the overall point. James is...
He's a cool dude.
Very cool, but... One personality quirk of his is he gets a little bitter, And that's like we love hanging with James.
We'd say it to his face. We love you, James.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So Johnny tells us all that he booked this part that everybody in town was auditioning for. He's like, hey, guys, by the way, I booked Rumpelstiltskin, the lead. And Austin's like, hey, that's great. I'm like, hey, that's great. Brian's like, hey, that's great. And then James is like, well, that's the best you're going to get off Actors Access.
Mood killer.
And James is going to be a guest on this podcast soon.
We hope
he is.
Yeah, that'd be great.
You guys will meet him.
He's a fun guy.
We'll roast him to his face.
So we had some good stories there. Anything else you guys had cooking on this week? Or
yeah.
No, that was it.
Okay. All righty.
One more, dude. I got one more.
Okay.
Well, it's an audition story, so we can cue right into this.
Well, I have a few bad audition stories.
I just have the one that I did this week.
Go ahead.
So if you're an actor out there in middle of the country, you want to move to LA, this might be your day-to-day. The day before, I get an audition for presumably one day, day player part for the new Danny Trejo movie.
Okay, for people that might not know, what is a day player?
Day player, you're working one day, usually in one scene, 2 scenes. And they said in the breakdown, which is the description of your role, it's like, we'll probably just work one day. So day player role.
If you book that, obviously you'd prefer a lead role, but if you book that, that's kind of like fun. It's like, oh man, I'm just working here one day. You're going to kill this part.
And my character was with Danny Trejo, and I played a drugged out guy, kind of going through withdrawals. And at first glance, this is more of a moderately budgeted film. It's not like a blockbuster. So it's like, oh, this is probably
like a red box.
Yeah, exactly.
We're huge fans of Danny Trejo. We know what type of movies he does.
Originally, I was like,
fans.
This is probably a paycheck for him. But his son wrote it. His son is in the starring lead with him. So, and I would play his son's friend, and both of us are on drugs. So I was like, oh, he might care about this.
You know, actually wondering about that. Do you guys think that like when he's on set, does he get like coffee and donuts from Trejo's Tacos and stuff? Like, is that like the crafty on set?
God damn, I hope so.
Probably does.
Well, what's going on over there?
If you hear our neighbor doing calisthenics.
Someone's building.
Guys, we're just up and comers in LA.
but if I could finish my story.
Go ahead.
So I go in, I have Aaron, help me practice it. How far do I go with this drugged out guy? And I
handed him a heroin needle, and I said, "You need to go for it."
And I go in and kind of make my eyes real dark. This is for Francine Skelkirk.
Oh yeah, okay.
So she
mostly does commercials,
exactly,
right?
Yeah. So she's casting a film this time.
Moving on up,
but she knows us because she's cast us in a couple commercials. But I go in, and I got it the day before. I wish I would have had more time with it, but my only goal was like just connect. I was like, they're probably gonna find somebody that looks way more drugged out than me. It's like, let me just have a great audition. Let's try it. And they did it. The reader was like on camera. He was like the dirty in the shot. He came right up there, and I did it. I play as drugged out as I can. And this is what the casting director associate tells me. He was like, man, that was pretty good. We're gonna give you another take. What do you want to do with that second take? And my response was, before I tell you what I want to do, let me just ask you. You've seen people all day. What do you think I should do for a second take? And he gives me some suggestions.
Interesting.
I do it again. I think my first take was the best one because he kind of told me I did a good job in that first take. So then I was...
Pressure's on.
So I think my first take was the best one. Point of the story is at the very end, he says, hey, man, I appreciate you doing the work. As I walk out, how would you respond to that?
You feel touched, don't you?
I feel like, the connection that you two had, Johnny can't even begin to imagine what he'd say.
I said, hey, man, I appreciate that. So are we done? Can I tell everybody else to go home? You guys ever made that joke?
I've said that once or twice.
Not two of them.
He's not usually well received.
Oh, it was...
Sounds like something they've probably heard.
He was like, yeah, man, why don't you tell him that?
Or you just tell him like, hey, man, I have a girlfriend. Back off.
He's like actually a nice guy.
When you tell the cashier, well, I guess it's free, huh? Not ringing up.
Classic. It always works too, right?
Yeah, but you and me, we auditioned. We sent in a twin self-tape for Blue Bloods. Any story involving that?
Is that the Jennifer Lopez show?
No.
Good God, dude!
It's
with Tom.
Shades of Blue. That's right. Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck and Mr. Wahlberg.
Get to work with that mustache.
I have no story on that.
Yeah, there's no story. All right, let's move on.
Wait, there's nothing happened.
I just asked him. Is there a story? Yeah.
No, we sent it in.
Oh.
We can watch it. No.
Okay. Let's check it out. Oh.
But that was my week.
All right, so we kind of talked about the week of what we got going on with auditions. So I'm going to pose this question to you guys.
Here we go.
So what do you guys, for everyone else out there too, what do you guys usually do? First step, you first get the audition. Like, what's your process? Like, what do you guys go through? Where do you go from there?
This is an audition where we're going into a casting.
Let's for the sake of like normal auditions, let's say it's in the room.
As opposed to self-tape.
Right.
Which I prefer. But, well, you print out the sides.
Okay. Step one.
Let's get to the meat.
Yeah. All right, you go. Okay, we get it.
You break it down. I have nothing other than basics. I assume everybody's doing the same basic thing.
Basics.
You break it down. You come up with your objectives, how you learned in college or however you learned to break down a scene. You break that down.
What does that mean, break it down?
What do you mean objectives?
Label
it. What does that all mean?
For the folks at home.
Yeah, some people that, let's say someone's looking into getting acting, but they have no idea where to start.
You sound like an expert when you're talking, dude. We need you to keep it basic. Yeah.
Main thing you need to do is, what does your character want? What's stopping your character from getting it? How can you...
Easy there.
How can you... what do you need to do for your character? Just the basic things. What do you want in the scene? And you break that down.
Find out your relationship to the people you're talking to in the scene. Now, besides doing the script work, you also look at all the information about the people the production company that is, what do you say? Like,
Yeah,
producing
what
the
is this
project.
producing it?
What has this
Yeah,
director done
the
in the
director.
past?
If the show's already on the air or the movie's already, a little bit is known about it, you look up what the vibe of the show, because depending on the vibe of the show, you're going to calibrate differently.
Right. Okay.
So, for instance, Blue Bloods, which we just auditioned for, that's very real. It's about the gritty reality of
is that CBS?
New
or-
York, CBS. It's
New York cops. And when a Wahlberg is on the show, you're getting that gritty reality right in your face, as opposed to something that's like a commercial, which could be, modern commercials are pretty straight, but it could be a little bit more broad.
But what do you do, Johnny?
Pretty much a lot of stuff you guys already mentioned, but I guess the biggest thing is I try to get a more feel for the character. So, especially now more than before. I think this is another question I'll ask you guys is what do you typically do to memorize lines? Because I know that comes up with a lot of actors sometimes. How do you memorize lines? I always forget this and that. I kind of stopped focusing so much on lines now.
Me too.
And I kind of just try to focus on just being the character and just being present in the room. So
I'm always.
Well, I think it's more important. I agree with that sentiment in that if I try and memorize, not that you don't want to memorize the lines. Obviously, if you can do that, that's what the best thing you could do. But don't worry about it. I would rather make it my own and really act and have a point of view than be stiff, which is inevitably what I will be if I'm trying to just remember the lines.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm taking the calculated risk of maybe I'll just, I know my objective. Maybe I'm just going to make this my own a little bit more here at the end rather than clam up.
right, because then you're kind of just like a robot just talking, right?
Yeah. And we're not saying to the the new people at home, forget about the lines. It's just you have to.
Ideally, you should have both.
Don't forget about the acting.
And think about why you're saying it rather than what you're saying. If you can do both, then that's ideal.
I think all this stuff was on the Kevin Spacey masterclass too.
Which I still am taking.
Which
by
is
the
now
way.
heavily discounted if you're trying to buy it.
Just kidding. I actually would have been curious to check it out, but I know it's not there anymore.
I mean, he's a good actor, right? Can you separate the art from the artist?
I can.
I already did. Take that back. No,
Here's the thing. If you hear Michael Jackson on the radio, do you turn it up or down, Johnny?
I turn it to a nice medium level so I can just cruise.
Well, it's interesting because one of the news stories I had, people in Starbucks were calling corporate, saying, I can't believe you're still playing Michael Jackson in your Starbucks locations.
Because of that documentary?
Yeah, because of...
What's weird, though, is the Starbucks was also playing Bill Cosby's stand-up album as well.
Yeah. But see, the thing that's weird about... I don't really understand why everyone all of a sudden is in such an uproar, because... We've already always known that had been doing some kind of weird stuff, right?
Michael Jackson?
Yeah.
Since
it's
the
not
90s.
He's had how many cases against him when he was in the 90s and stuff? We're acting like this is all new information.
Anybody who has ever, an adult who has kids, is anybody who's ever said, oh yeah, I love Michael Jackson. I said, well, would you let him babysit your kids? They never do.
Yeah.
They know.
They know.
But it's okay if you separate the art from the artist. You can enjoy Pretty Young Thing and not think about...
a pretty young thing.
Yeah.
That is very true. No, I mean, I just don't really understand why everyone's so upset.
The
I don't
outrage
really get
culture,
it.
right?
That's what it is now, man. You say one thing and you get crucified, right?
These social justice warriors just need to shut up, right, Johnny?
I think so.
Let's get into it.
Tell us how you really feel, Aaron.
What
do you think about Michael Jackson?
And Starbucks.
Yeah, I think I can separate the art from the artist. If I heard Michael Jackson on the Starbucks thing, I wouldn't care at all.
You make me sick. You are sick. You know that?
It's here's the thing. I mean, Thriller is a great song, but it's not that great. I mean, it's pretty good. It's a great song.
Whoa, dude! You ask the generation that grew up with Thriller, they'll tell you it's great.
I like a lot of Michael Jackson songs, but
Man in the Mirror, come on.
yeah, great.
Well,
Oh my God, dude,
come on,
shed a
dude.
tear. No, obviously Michael Jackson is a legend. I'm not denying that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's settled. You're all about it.
So let's get back to these auditions. What's the next step after you break down the script? Any stories? Let's just go into stories. That's honestly more than a lesson on what you should do. Any in the past audition stories?
Good stories, bad stories.
Memorable stories that some people might
I've
take value in. At
You
home.
know, in preparation for this episode, because I only try and bring my A game, I did think of a couple.
And it shows.
I did think of a couple crazy, kooky stories.
Give us one.
Well, one of them involves you and me.
Nice.
It's more of an anecdote, really, rather
Cool.
than a story. Do you
I
remember?
love anecdotes.
Do you
Here we go.
remember years ago when we, I can't remember what it was for, but we went into a twin audition, and basically it was like a twin Mandingo fighting.
What?
What do you mean?
Because we go into the audition room, and then the casting director is like, "All right, take your shirts off, fight,
Oh, that was
really go for it."
Really?
no. I remember we had to dance with our shirts off.
We had to like grapple.
I blacked it out.
What?
I remember we had to dance, like do a sexy dance, like with our shirts off, and we were just like awkward. But I do not remember the fight.
I mean, that's fine, but I'm talking about when they told us.
Which casting office?
What house was this at?
Not one that we go in all the time. I cannot recall.
Some low budget casting
Yeah.
office.
It was like a professional one because my next story is involving a house. You know,
Okay.
there's
So-
non-union auditions, then there's non-union.
But we don't
auditions.
do non-union work.
We're all SAG here.
We're all union actors.
But is that the end of the story? We did it?
Yeah, it was just that.
I don't remember.
We did it because we wanted to be famous. So we're just Mandingo fighting.
Fresh off the boat in LA.
We're grappling.
What is Mandingo fighting?
from Django Unchained?
Oh, okay.
But do you know what?
It's people fighting for like other person's pleasure.
Okay.
But do you know what a mandingo is?
It was obviously like a slave, right?
That's more than that, dude.
Or
It's-
what is it?
Well, typically a mandingo is something you refer to for a large black penis.
Oh.
Dude,
I'm serious.
my parents are gonna watch this, man.
Okay, you asked me what it was. And I'm trying to tell you. So I'm trying to save you some grace from keeping using
That's
the word.
the kind of fighting we did.
I've never heard anybody refer to it that way.
Google it right now.
Dude, but I think more people know it from the A-list movie they made.
But do they?
Leonardo DiCaprio. So after we, as we were grappling, because there was the person in the audition, the casting director, then there was somebody who looked a little bit unsure, and that the casting director,
What was it? A commercial?
Probably, I can't remember. Yeah, it had to be a commercial. The casting director then like turned to the other person like, so what makes you interested in Mandingo fighting? And
Asking the other person.
They didn't say that.
Not to us.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of the movie. And then they offered us a cool sweet tea and bourbon at the end. Anything we wanted.
No.
Smooth.
No, but the beginning thing happened. That was kind of weird. We didn't book it, so.
And here we are today. Wishing that. Do you guys remember? Okay. First of all, how long have you guys been in LA?
5
Like
years.
5 years?
Do you remember the very first audition you ever went to? Out here?
Well, Aaron and I remember the first audition I went to when we had an agent in Cleveland, and it was for like a Nickelodeon
Commercial?
movie.
Oh, okay.
No, the movie was coming through, Victoria Justice movie, and we auditioned for the bad boy type role. I just remember the casting associate or director, wherever, just like stopping me, and she was like, just slow down. We can do a second take. Because I was just like nervous. And she was like, hey, let's just do it again. We can do it a couple more times. And I was like, okay, thanks.
So you guys remember your first audition in LA?
Well, there's a difference between good audition. I remember.
Well, just your general, like your very first.
I mean, it had to be. The first thing I ever
was probably
auditioned
a
for was
student.
probably like, you know how you go
Student
to UCLA and you like be part of somebody's scene in their class?
Oh yeah, I did that once at
I've never done it.
Cal State or something.
Yeah, I did that once. Oh,
And I was like, I'm not doing this again.
actually, our scene was one of the best. We did the beginning of Pulp Fiction when they're at the table.
Nice, dude. That's a
get
good
an A?
scene.
We killed it. I mean, because we actually prepared as if it were a real role.
So did a student director sign you on the spot for their next movie?
No.
Never heard from him
Like,
again.
the female I acted with, tell she had a little crush on me, but
Nice, dude.
Yeah, right.
Attaboy.
How about you, Johnny? What was your first?
Actually, well, I do remember my first audition, but it's funny you mentioned Cleveland. Not that this is going to Cleveland, but when I first started acting in Arizona, very briefly before I moved out here, I didn't really do much over there. I didn't go to school for acting. I remember going to one of the very first commercial auditions I ever had in Arizona was for Arizona Lottery, and I was really nervous, but I went in there, and actually there was dialogue, and I actually did really well at the first audition, and I was like, wasn't that bad. Like
This is for me.
I think I did pretty good, and it was just me and the camera operator, and they also read the lines, and they were like, "Yeah, that was great, one take," and I was out. I got my first callback ever. Right, I was nervous. I didn't even realize you had to wear the same clothes to the second audition.
we don't have to.
Right.
But you should.
But typically, and I wore something completely different that I didn't know. And I walked into the casting room, which was at a different place. And I kid you not, there was probably like 30 people there. Like it was like a stadium style of seating, and there was just like
American Idol.
just a ton of people there. And I was just like shitting bricks.
But you could have a callback where they see the top 30 people. Like it's just weird they're all there together.
Right, but it was also a commercial, like a local, like a local regional commercial, and I'm like, what? And I didn't realize this, and in my head I'm thinking, oh my God, there's so many people, I have to talk. What am I gonna do? And then I just remember standing there, just being like really frozen, and the person was saying the lines, and I just something came out. I knew it wasn't good. It was awful. I just knew it was terrible.
You said the lines?
I said the lines, but I messed up a couple of the lines. And then I kind of walked out, when you slunk your head down, like, thanks.
Defeated.
You're just like, and I was like, man, I didn't realize a callback had that many people. But then again.
It was probably 100 the first time. Then it's probably.
Yeah, every time after that, typically how many people are in a callback? Not that many.
Right. Probably top 20. I don't know.
Even that, if that.
15-minute increments from 10 to 2.
It's hard to know.
Probably.
Yeah, but that was like my first callback, and I was emotionally destroyed because everybody knew about it. They're like, "Hey, how'd your callback go?" And I was just like, "Yeah, I'll tell you about it later."
Usually, I just say like, "Great," like went great. Let's stop talking about it.
For the folks at home, if you guys could sum up in one phrase, what is the most important thing to consider in auditions? What would you say? I think the most important.
It's tough to go the most important.
Well, the soundbite culture, I would go, I'd say the most important thing is outcome independent. As in you go in there and you don't care. Not that you don't care, but I guess you don't care. Like you don't consider, how would you define that?
The results don't matter.
The results don't matter. Like whose line?
You're respectful and you're there to play, but you're not dependent on what they think, their opinion.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like that Bryan Cranston thing where it's like your job is to basically just do the audition, like bring that character to life. And then if you get on set, then you're lucky. But honestly, your job is to just create the character and just do the audition and bring what you can to the table. And that's pretty much it. The rest is out of your hands.
So what would you guys say? Can't take my answer.
Well, speaking of outcome independent, I want to share a story that happened with us for Hotels.com. We got to the callback. We booked
They could still use that commercial, dude.
They booked it. We filmed it.
Not
It
anymore.
hasn't aired yet. But we were on a dinner date. We were like conjoined at the hip or whatever on a dinner date with a beautiful girl. And this is the callback. And Aaron.
And we worked with a real girl.
And it was the director of Zombieland who was like,
nice.
Name drop, who was like filming it.
Fleischer?
Yes, Ruben Fleischer.
Good movie.
And we set up the scene, and then Aaron just starts directing the producers and directing the directors. Like, well, you guys have some food over there. Maybe can we get some of those forks? And then, how about the grapes or something? And then they all look to Ruben, and Ruben's like, yeah, you get him that. And
I wasn't really directing. It was more like
demanding.
I stood up, and when you walk from the little area they set up for the set and you walk across the room to where they're sitting, that's a pattern interrupt of sorts.
Yeah, you went on their side.
So I'm just looking at the stuff they have, and they have like the fruit and everything. I'm like, could I use these? It's just some grapes.
I think it was more like, well, we can use these. It was more like.
But just the overall point was, Austin's right. I was very outcome independent, and it was like
you were the leader more than the director, and you were just making the scene better.
They were drawn to it. It was different from what they were used to.
And you weren't
energy.
being disrespectful. You were just like adding to the play.
Yeah, basically.
The play.
I checked in with them. Basically, I didn't take them away until they gave me the nod.
That is really cool. I think he took a pretty big gamble because on average, like it's like, do you take a risk? Do you not? Like he could have. One version of that story could have gone like the director was furious and flipped out and said, "Get the hell out of here!" Right?
Or I think more, it's like
could have been silently.
He wasn't like he would have like taken it as disrespectful. It's more like get out. It's more like what's this guy's.
It's a constant calibration. In that particular one, things went great, but there are times you go a little bit too far. Not that anybody would get outwardly mad, but you just know that maybe I didn't calibrate quite so much.
Right.
So did you think that maybe you had more room to play with it because it was a director of Zombieland, knowing the kind of movie it was?
We didn't know him at the time. We didn't know that was that guy till the fitting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we didn't know those people at all.
Because I feel like sometimes if you know the director and the type of stuff they do, you're like, oh, they're probably willing to play around a little bit.
I wish we would have known that.
Yeah, that was, he clearly does like to work with comedians.
I just remember at the fitting, we were like, and what's the director's name again? And then I looked it up on my phone. I was like, oh, this guy's directed some stuff. and the wardrobe person was like, yeah.
So I would think the reason that our version, because there were different versions of the commercial. We were in one of the versions. There was all same set. This lady going on dates with different weirdos. They didn't air the one that we did, I would think, because we'll get your take, because we played conjoined twins.
And that was like the joke, making fun of like, you would never want to go out on a date with a conjoined twin.
So you think the conjoined twin community would have been offended?
Nowadays? Let's take it back to...
But it is a comedy spot, right? I mean, come on. I mean,
a brand. For a
I do remember
brand.
one of those other spots was like, wasn't the dude like, the guy had no hair or something like that? Like he was on
He
a
had a
date.
wig. Dude,
yeah.
dude,
That was
you
the one. That was
watched.
the one we worked with.
I know. I remember those. Obviously, they ran that one so much.
Yeah, they did.
But I was like,
Could've
couldn't
been
people
us.
what about the bald community, man? They could be offended by that.
You're right.
I mean, come on.
What about the pedophile community? They could be
Whoa,
offended.
whoa, dude.
Oh.
I saw Leaving Neverland.
That's the Michael Jackson.
I'll never leave.
But like, here's the thing, though. Joe Jackson, Michael Jackson's father, approved. I'm gonna do a Daniel Tosh bit. No.
Okay,
just let it
so
go, let it
yours
go.
was outcome independent. Do you have any stories? It just has to be stories about auditions.
I have lots of stories, but I'm gonna.
Give us
If we're
one.
giving one hot take on it, all I'm gonna say, the one note I would say for any audition, is just try to be a real, living person.
Yeah,
That's
don't
it.
go in like what they want. Just how you would. This is your role.
Don't be too charactery. You're saying?
I mean, there's a time and place for a charactery
Be
thing,
you.
but even then, like I think just try to be real. Like, you know, unless like it says specifically says like we want this, you know, very over the top broad character, that's different. But like I think generally now the tone is to be very real. You know?
Yeah.
That's it.
Boom.
What about you? Hot take.
Well, I gave that story, so I'm hot taked out. I want to hear a story about your callback. Or a callback. Or audition.
I have a excuse me. I hope
Jesus,
we
dude,
could-
press the cough button.
I wish we could get that out. Do that beer, man, that IPA. I have a horrible audition story. Actually, I think it was probably one of the worst auditions I've ever had since I've been in LA. And
Go on.
big casting director. Not going to say who it was, but she cast a lot of very well-known TV shows. And I went in for, I think it was for like a guest star. Yeah, I think, no, it was wait. I think it was, might have been a guest star or co-star. Don't know. Anyway, so I showed up at the audition.
Drama or comedy?
Drama. Fully prepared, but the role was a translator. Like the character was actually translating from Spanish to English, right? So there's two different characters.
You can do that, right?
I speak Spanish. So one of the characters was saying something to me in English, and then I had to translate this to a different character in Spanish, and then he would reply in Spanish, and then I would say something in English, right? Very obvious. So I walked in the audition, decided, which I never do ever again anymore, that I'm not taking the sides in with me. I left them outside of the room. I was like, I got this. I already know it. Ready to go.
You're not doing that anymore?
I always bring it in now, all the time now, all the time, because you never know. And I'd rather have it there than not have it at all.
Yeah, and just put it on the side.
Just put it on the side, put it on the ground. Anyway, so I didn't have it with me. The first thing she says to me is, hey, by the way, I'm not going to do any of the Spanish lines. And all right, let's go ahead and do it then. And I'm just like, and I had to process this for a second because I'm thinking like, okay, so how am I going to know my cue of like what he's saying? And then when I'm talking in my head, I was processing all this information. And then I was thinking like, no, you could, Johnny, you can do this. You got it. Like, you're fine. And then she's like, all right, here we go. And then like it started. And then I just stood there with a blank face. And I said something to one character. And then she skipped whatever the other character was saying. And then apparently it was my line again. And then I was just like, hey,
So she's doing the English lines or the Spanish lines?
just the English ones.
Right.
No Spanish lines.
And you have to do it in Spanish?
I have to do lines in Spanish, and the character was talking to me in Spanish.
Right.
So she's not giving your setup lines.
Exactly.
Your cue lines.
No, she was only giving me like the ones that were in English, and I was like, well, then I don't know who's talking to me at what point or what, like, and so I stopped her and I was like, hey, look, I'm sorry. It just, it's a little difficult to know where I am in the story. Like if you're not saying the Spanish lines, you know, I'm a little lost, you know? And then she kind of was just like, she did like a heavy sigh. Okay. Well, you know what? Let's just try it again. And I'm just like,
So she didn't switch.
no.
She doesn't speak Spanish, probably.
Yeah, but then bring someone that speaks Spanish.
I
We're going to
agree.
cast a Spanish talking show.
Couldn't you just say anything in Spanish? Like she wouldn't have known.
Yeah,
But
they
the
would have just
producers might.
Yeah, they're going to figure it out. I would look stupid. But anyway, so
Because you didn't look stupid.
I know, right? So anyway, we did it again, and it was mediocre at best because I'm basically now just saying my lines back to back without nothing in between. And so like it doesn't make any sense. And she wanted me to shift eye lines between each character. And I'm like, I don't even know who I'm talking to because you're not saying the lines. And then like literally the audition was over. And then she did one of these. She looked at the camera operator and she was just like, thank you.
Double take eye roll.
And I was so pissed off. I like walked out and I was just like, yeah, thanks. Like I just like very sternly and I just left. And I was so irate. Like I thought, how lazy are you? You know?
Yeah.
I was so upset.
Did you ever
by
watch that episode and who got that part?
Didn't see it. But the funny thing is that like, well, that casting director's never bringing me back again.
Yeah.
A couple weeks later, I got it called in for a recurring guest star, and I got a callback for it for the same show. And I was in the callback room with her again because the first audition was with a different girl.
So she did call you back.
She called me back in. Now, the first audition, though, was with a different girl, right? A white girl, keep in mind. The other girl.
Wait, the casting associate is a white
casting
girl?
associate.
Okay.
And first thing I asked her when I walked in is like, hey, there's dialogue in Spanish. Are you saying the Spanish lines? And she said, well, yeah, of course. Why wouldn't I? Well, that's what I thought, right?
I've been hurt before.
So, and anyway, in the callback, I was with that original casting director, which was really funny. And I asked her the same question. Hey, are you reading the Spanish lines? And the producers are in the room and the director. And she's like, yeah, of course. And all I thought was like, wow.
You should have went on a rant.
I should have, man. I didn't get it anyway, so it didn't matter. But
I'm sorry, dude.
no, but it was a funny moment. But then at the same time, I was like, come on. Like, wouldn't you want the person to do well? Like,
Yeah.
why are you setting them up to fail?
That's on her. I feel she just didn't want to admit her own insecurities.
I think for every success story, there's 3 stories like that, you know?
If there
three
was
to
a
several.
success story, there isn't one. So
Yeah.
anyway.
Except for this podcast.
So that's how you audition.
Yikes. Anyway,
I think we had some questions.
Yep, we have 3 questions if you want to
let's bust them out.
jump right there. One,
Well, let's set it up. You know, something we try and do on this podcast is help the up-and-comers of the world. And so people are welcome to send us in questions, and we'll be happy to answer them the best we can.
And we're not experts. We're just, going
Couple
through
of
this
guys,
town
yeah.
one day at a time.
But if they wanted to
happy.
contact us, how would they send those in?
You can hit us up on all social media on @Hollywood Surviving Hollywood Podcast, @Surviving Hollywood Podcast, or on Twitter @SurvivingHollyW.
One day you'll get it, man.
Grab
Hey.
a beer. I'm listening.
Okay, cool. There was one question that definitely had to do with auditioning, so we're gonna start with that.
Okay.
I took a screenshot.
And by the way, eventually we will be trying to incorporate live questions as the podcast is rolling. So if there was a live question in the middle of us talking about something, we could answer, right?
Yep. And if you want to call in, Johnny, what's your cell phone number?
What's yours again?
Hey. All right. So this is the first question. Sort of kind of like it has to do with auditioning. What is the best neighborhood or area to live in if you're planning to do a lot of auditions? Are the auditions really spread out, or do most auditions take place in a certain geographical area?
Great question. I'll let you start it
I
off.
asked it. Can't process both at the same time.
Well,
LA County, I would say.
that is the best.
So obviously,
what I'll-
people think of Hollywood, like, oh, should I live in Hollywood? Because that's what they assume the auditions take place.
well,
You
can,
don't need to.
Yeah, go ahead. You can take it.
Well, there's Los Angeles, and then there's LA County. So if you can find any space within LA County, that'd be pretty good. But even if you lived in certain places outside, that'd be fine. I would just say generally that Hollywood, West Hollywood, North Hollywood, anything with Hollywood in the name, Burbank.
I think
Once you're getting towards Eagle Rock or
Typically where most of the auditions are.
Santa
is
Clarita,
Hollywood.
you're going pretty far.
they're going to be in Hollywood. A lot of commercial ones are going to be in Santa Monica.
Oy.
But I think a lot of people think like, because now if any place takes 20 minutes to get to, that's standard. If we were in Ohio, 20 minutes. Oh, we're going to drive there?
30 minutes is standard in LA.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. Pretty much 30 minutes to get anywhere.
So if you're 30 minutes outside of Hollywood, no big deal. It's like, especially if you're only going to sign a year lease, it's like be there for a year. It's like,
Yeah. I mean, I think all those neighborhoods are fine. Like anything, I mean, Koreatown is close, Mid-City.
live somewhere affordable that you can stay here
Yeah.
for the long haul.
Yeah. Anything in the LA area is good. I think Long Beach is probably a little too far.
I would say if you want to be a professional and you're not in New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Florida, then what are you doing?
What are you doing with your life?
But even besides that, if you're doing a bunch of work in Cleveland, Ohio, that's cool. But then when you come out to Los Angeles or New York, they're not going to care. You're starting all over.
Yeah.
So I would just say get here as soon as possible.
I like that.
So I think we
Sums it
answered
up.
that question.
Sums it up.
This question, this guy, Danny Colt.
I like that guy.
Should we be doxing these people?
He's kind of all over the place.
Sounds like a made up name.
So this one, I feel like this one's kind of a dumb question. It ends dumb. We're gonna have a better question to finish, but he kind of goes all over the place. It's a couple sentences. I feel like not nearly enough people are talking about the business of acting in depth. So going into stuff like branding, target marketing, what can you do instead of telling people what not to do? But that's not. So he sets that up, but then he asks the question. How do I get auditions? How do I get on a network show?
Well, to answer the first thing, first of all, we can't
Keep dreaming, buddy.
We can't make you be an entrepreneur. Either you got the entrepreneurial bug or you don't. You know, this guy's. How do I think outside the box? You know.
So how does he get on a network show?
Dude, well, first of all, just think outside the box. So you're gonna come to Hollywood. You're gonna come to Los Angeles. You're going to have nothing going for you. You're gonna have bills to pay, a job, survival job you hate, and then
Yikes.
you're going to be auditioning for stuff which isn't that good. And then every once in a while, you're gonna get a good audition. You're not gonna even get a callback. If you get a callback, you're not gonna book it. Now that's at the beginning. That's why a lot of people leave in the first couple of years because you start from nothing.
All right, man.
Well, that's true. Hey, you're
Someone's-
saying nothing in
I'm sorry. Are you guys gonna lie to
Is
him?
James Lake here? I don't know.
Hey.
But then, you have to get the wins, and you have to be able to just revel in those victories. So you'll get a little win here, a little win there, and the way you get more and more wins is you start figuring out what you do best, calibrating, and continue to think outside the box. How do I differentiate myself?
So what I'm thinking, because I'm not sure what you're saying like put your resume in the pizza box and deliver the pizza to the.
That'd be great.
What do you mean outside the box?
Yeah, that'd be great. Something like that. Something to differentiate yourself, whether that's
Coffee mugs with your face on it?
coffee mugs with your face
Hey,
on
we
it.
talked about that in an earlier episode. Have you caught them all?
Or maybe it's like, who's that? What's the 8?
Pokemon or what?
You guys know the 80-20 rule?
Or remind me.
It's
20% of the people are doing 80% of the
For
work.
some reason you said that and I thought about vision. Oh, yeah, I got 20-20. Now I got 80-20.
now who's that guy who's wrote the 4-Hour Work Week?
Oh, oh man, it's slipped
Eric
me.
something?
Yeah, I can't remember.
Anyway,
But-
he said how you're making most of your income, donate 80 or calibrate 80% of your time to that and then 20% to something else. Like, you know, Austin and I, it's a lot easier. It's a lot less of a pool of actors for doing the twin stuff. So we realized, we book a little bit more regularly when we're going out for twin stuff. So let's make sure we really focus on that.
Bread
But
and butter.
not everybody has a twin, but find your version of your twin.
Doppelganger.
Sometimes people have to train their whole lives for a special skill. Not us.
Must be nice.
And I'm not going to let you guys up on this.
You have natural talent.
How does he get a network show?
Well, he asked a lot of questions, but like, okay, but there's nothing wrong with like saying like, I want to be on the show or this and that.
Absolutely not.
Don't know this guy, not sure what his situation is, but
Has anybody here been on a network show?
yeah.
Johnny is.
But yeah, you've been on one.
Bosh.
Right? Where'd you guys not? I thought you guys did something together too, right?
I've never been on a network.
I don't think we got it.
Got it.
We were damn close.
Been on cable.
Yeah, we've been on
Yeah,
cable.
that's still network. Right?
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes when I see a network, I think like 3, 5, and 8.
CBS, yeah,
exactly.
I know what you're talking about. No, I was going to say, so it sounds like the guys really focus on the business aspect of it. And I agree, a lot of people don't talk about the business of acting, which is a huge component of this entire industry. However, before you really dig into that, I actually say you really want to get good. Like, just get really good at acting and the craft of acting so that when those opportunities do come, you don't blow it. Because, like, you could be the best marketer and get yourself into, like, all kinds of cool stuff and network into places. But if you can't back it up, I mean, it's not going to work for you anyway.
I'd say do both, because there's plenty of people who just focus on acting and they never book too much because they're not entrepreneurs, you know?
I agree. That definitely you have to do both. But I think if you're very new to acting, like, you just have to get good first and then, like, start doing all the other stuff.
Part of being good is, like, getting used to being on sets and knowing how that functions and
do background work.
Nah.
Hey, you learn how a set works.
Or create your own content. There's plenty of Instagram stars that are getting guest stars.
Well,
on
that doesn't
shit.
make you good.
But here's the thing.
No, but
it's
I'm
super
answering his
easy.
question.
Just
But creating, you wouldn't say create your own content.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying it makes you good. That will help you.
But how many
get
of those people are actual good actors?
I'm saying
plenty
both,
of
dude.
Are you not about creating your own content?
Dude, I create my own content all the time. What are
but
you
you're
talking
acting
about?
like it's a bad thing.
you
Oh,
saying-
those people are all hacks.
Okay,
No,
so-
because you're saying Instagram people. I'm like, they're not actors.
so
though.
Mark
well,
Duplass isn't a good actor.
Dude, that guy's I like him a lot. I respect the hell out of
He
him.
was the original create your own content.
He's part of the reason why I even create anything.
The workaholics guys aren't good actors.
They,
Durs is good.
None of them got famous through Instagram though.
they're not bad actors. They're good actors. I think that, sometimes they're a little broad for me, but
Yeah.
same shtick in everything they do. But
And last question is, what do you wish you would have known before you moved to LA that you know now, I guess? So before you moved to LA, what do you wish you would have known, or what have you learned maybe that you didn't know?
I wish I would have came sooner. That's all.
I agree.
Yeah.
I would have came when I was like out of high school.
I agree.
Yeah. Just thinking about my career, you don't need to go to college.
Aaron and I, we went to college, got
acting.
a theater degree.
Not that it was bad, but it wasn't
Losers.
Really, nobody cared about that.
But you definitely don't need it. You definitely need to keep studying, but there's plenty of places out here, and there's so many roles that open up to you if you can play. You don't have to be under 18, but if you can play under 18,
Also-
like that's kind of like having a twin in terms of it's more of a select pool.
Also, I remember hearing in like college somebody saying that the quote was, "If you can think of anything that you like doing as much as acting, do that, because acting is going to be really hard." And I just thought, oh, come on, yeah, right. But in college you had like the bubble. Of course, you're going to get a role. But then that's true in that it's very hard to go from 0 to 20 miles per hour. But once you get 20 miles per hour, it's a lot easier once you get that momentum going, it's a lot easier. It's just hard to get that momentum starting. In the first few years here, it's going to be hard because you're going to watch your other friends that you knew growing up. They're going to start getting promotions. They can go on vacations,
Making
and
money.
stuff.
Buy a house.
And you really have to be dedicated to your craft and craft so that eventually it'll pay off. You got to find those wins.
I agree.
I love it. And if you have a question, hit us up on all social media at Surviving Hollywood Podcast on all forms, except for Twitter. They have a character limit at Surviving Holly W.
Well, the character limit is 240, right?
Not for your username.
It's smaller. Anyway, so any final thoughts?
I think we should
I
end
just
with
want to
share?
do some news.
Well, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on?
Unless you guys want to skip it.
Crowbarring it in.
No.
No, I would love.
It's just going to do 5 minutes.
I would
No,
love to
let's
hear
do
some
it.
news, and
I'd
then,
love to hear it.
and then we'll end by, hey, what are we doing this weekend?
I would love to hear some news because I haven't really checked on anything today, so that'd be cool.
So I just pulled up the big ones: TMZ, Hollywood Reporter.
Never heard of them.
I'm just going to read. I'm going to pose questions to you guys based on the headlines, and we'll all give our hot takes, and we'll move on. We'll get out of here, grab some lunch.
I like hot takes.
Okay. So Meghan Markle, last royal engagement before maternity leave. So this lady's the the princess, and now she's going on
think, like,
maternity leave.
Duchess.
Former actress.
I watch Suits.
But what is she leaving from? Being a princess?
These are just set up so you can tell the jokes.
Well, what
that
do you guys think about that? Meghan Markle.
Markle, isn't it Markle?
Markle is going on.
Let's get their name right.
She's going on maternity leave. Maternity leave.
goodness.
So what is she leaving?
Well, she's leaving the royal engagement.
Oh, that must have been hard.
Royal treatment.
I just want to say hey, she was great in Suits. The ensemble was great. Lewis and Harvey, they were obviously the favorites. But
She can wear the hell out of a dress.
Oh,
she can.
okay.
Attractive young woman.
can.
Felicity Huffman and Aunt Becky from Full House.
Oh, that's right. I
Both
heard about that.
participated in school scams. Hallmark cuts ties with Lori, who's the Becky from Full House, and also Lori's children, who they weren't sure if they were going to be invited back to USC. Well, guess what? They're not going. They're not going back. They've made that decision on their own.
So that she can't cope with bullying. Man.
Yeah.
That's really crazy.
So what, I'm not really sure what this is. What was the scam?
Well, the
They
scam was that,
bribing.
they were paying the school money to get their kids into the school. Like, I think she gave them like $500,000, right?
But that's
Yeah.
kind of
Normal.
Isn't there like a legal way to do that? Like you just
Yeah.
You donate.
Yeah, you-
like,
right,
I donated
donation.
this wing of the school.
yeah, they named the building after you.
You can't afford the wing, so you just do $500,000.
Well, the first thing I was going to say is that, like, is USC that hard to get into?
They live in California. If you live in California.
it should be like not that hard. I didn't really understand why you had to donate $500,000.
The daughter, I feel bad for the daughter because she did just lose all her scholarships.
That sucks.
She doesn't need it. A scholarship?
They said that
doesn't.
she lost some certain scholarships because of the
How about the $500,000 you donated? Could have paid for college.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I don't know.
They would have. They have plenty of money. Who
It's like, honey, we're kind of strapped for cash here. We just donated $500,000.
Yeah, she is on Fuller House. I mean, it's not like she's not working.
So
Yeah, good.
so do you? Well, Fuller House isn't.
I'm sure they're
Is that
getting,
show still on?
I don't know.
definitely had multiple seasons.
I
Yeah, I
thought they
think
got
it is.
canceled.
But Felicity
Or maybe
Huffman,
they
what
did.
about her? You guys feel bad for her?
Don't even like know her, who she is.
I mean,
William H Macy's wife.
Right.
well, the whole thing is just kind of like, I don't know. I mean, it feels a little extreme, I think, for Hallmark to cut ties with her. Like, it wasn't like,
There's a certain thing called a morality clause. You know.
I guess, but I don't know. I mean, it's just like I was trying to give my kids an education. Like, obviously, you went about it the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they
But-
could have just paid for college at USC.
Yeah, I don't
It's no
understand.
Harvard.
No, I know. Like, if it was like, oh, I was paying for them to go to Yale or something, I'd be like, oh, okay. But like USC,
Yeah,
okay.
so-
it's a good school.
So
but
neither Austin nor Johnny feel sympathy. Next story. Jussie Smollett pleads not guilty in alleged falsified case, denying 16 counts of disorderly conduct
As he should.
and allegedly filing a false police report. Any sympathy for Jussie
listen,
Smollett?
he's trying to write a movie here. So he's not going to plead guilty. This is the first end of the first act. The not guilty.
Actually, I heard that he's actually using this as research for a new upcoming movie role. So
Like,
good for him.
Like when you guys first, let me just ask you.
you kidding?
Before we found out that, before we found out that,
Joking. I'm joking.
before we found out that Jussie Smollett was a liar. So before that, back when he was,
But is he confirmed liar?
no, allegedly a liar.
Okay.
But come on. But back before we found out that, you know, he had all this, before we found out that he was making it up, allegedly, and you guys, he was the victim at that point. Did you
Yeah.
guys feel sympathy for him? I'm talking about just him, not cases in general. I'm talking about just him.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, of course.
I mean, if he got
somebody
beat
goes-
up by two dudes,
Yeah.
it's like
So when he said I'm the gay Tupac, you were like, oh man, what a
well,
normal
first of all,
guy.
he ain't nobody Tupac. Second, I'm like, yeah, of course, I felt bad for him because, like, you know, the way he described what happened to him, like, man, that's crazy. But at the same time, when I did first hear the story, I remember reading it, being like,
when he was
wow, that's crazy that like somebody would do that. It almost felt like it was too much. You know,
Yeah.
like I'm like I don't know, like
we can
someone's
admit it was bad writing. We can admit that now.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. It just seemed like, you know, and then when I saw a photo of him on his IG, I didn't really look that beat up. So I was just like, oh, they, you know, maybe there was like
fine.
other injuries I didn't see, but I was like, oh, his face was
put a raw steak on it and keep moving.
You know
Yeah.
what, Austin, Johnny?
What
There
did
are-
you think though?
There are plenty of real cases where hate crimes exist, and I think that you two making fun of it or trivializing that. So
Not making fun of it at all, actually. It just
kidding. All right, so Chance the Rapper reveals him and his wife are expecting baby number 2 days after the wedding. Something tells me they had premarital sex.
wow. Chance the Rapper is now Chance the husband and father.
You think he's going to go for lucky number 3 with the kids? How can he not? How can he not?
I don't know. How do you feel about that?
You guys used up all the jokes. So, sounds good for him.
What's your favorite Chance the Rapper song?
I don't really listen to him.
I can't think of a specific song. He's got like, what was that last album he had? The Colors one. What was it called?
I liked when he hosted SNL.
That was a cool album.
Thought he did good.
I like when he combines gospel with rap.
That's cool. I like it.
And let's do one more current event before we get to.
Yeah, just a couple more.
Before we hit
These
1
are just,
hour.
These are
on this
one-offs. These are one-offs. Drake invites his mother, the mother of his son, to his concert, and she had the best time. Any take?
What kind of headline is that?
Okay.
Sounds fine.
Yeah, she had the best time.
about
Yeah,
this?
good for her.
I'm sure they're friendly.
Next up, Project Runway is back and ready to tackle the way the fashion industry has changed.
Who cares?
Ooh.
Who cares?
That show was relevant. So
How has it changed?
I don't know.
Dude, ask us better current events.
these
You're
are-
reaching on
These
this.
are really.
Paris Jackson, Michael Jackson's daughter, shuts down downward spiral rumors. Would you guys think Paris Jackson is hot? That's what I wanted to ask you guys.
She looks pretty attractive
She
from here.
looks, like a freaky, kind of dangerous.
She got
kinda-
blue eyes.
Hey, can we get
And
like?
that's it.
Okay, cool.
Wait,
Oh, there's
that was a huge headline right there.
I feel we
I
were
don't know- I don't
reaching.
know what that is.
These are like C stories you gave us at the
yeah,
end.
it's just for fun.
You're just pulling like every little headline that just.
We were just having fun.
I like
Yeah.
it. Johnny,
Okay.
why don't you close it out?
Anyway, so any last thoughts on auditioning before we bail out of here?
Let's talk about what we're doing.
Never give up, never surrender. If nothing else, I once watched this podcast and stuck with me for a long time. It was T.J. Miller.
I thought you were gonna say Surviving Hollywood.
No, it was T.J. Miller before he was famous. He was on a podcast called Making It, and it was talking about how you make it in Hollywood.
Was that the one about the llama or not the llama?
Yes,
the
bear.
The
bear.
He was going out for Yogi
know
Bear,
why I
and he
said
said
llama.
this is what he learned. How his strategy for auditioning, and this is basically what outcome independent is the takeaway. But he goes into the audition, the callback maybe, with all these producers and director for his character in Yogi Bear, and he has this safari hat that he bought right before the audition, and the whole time he's just messing with him in a fun T.J. Miller way. So is it okay if I wear the hat? And they're like, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, of course. It's like, and then, okay, so I'm going to wear the hat. That's cool. And he kept like saying that. And then afterwards, he did that. He called his manager up. They didn't ask him to do this, but he called his manager up. He said, could you get me a bear? And his manager got him a bear, and he recorded a self-tape next to a bear. And he eventually booked the part. So
Classic.
Hey, it worked.
that speaks volumes.
I love it. I mean,
Dude, great story.
Austin or anything? That was inspiring, actually. I thought that was that's a
I
really
think
cool
that's a
story.
great ender for the audition thing. What am I doing this weekend?
Any auditions tomorrow, next day?
No.
All right. Well, I think that concludes today's episode. Thank you guys for tuning in to Surviving Hollywood. We will see you on the next one. Once again, I'm Johnny.
I'm Aaron.
And I'm Austin.
See you guys next time.
Peace.
Later.